This is Rebecca. Rebecca is an aspiring physicist and professional pool player.
She knew that the law of conservation of momentum existed, but she wanted to test it out for herself.
In her experiment, she set up 2 billiard balls, each with a mass of 0.165 kilograms.
Here are the initial and final positions of the balls. The law of conservation of momentum states that in an isolated system, the total momentum of two objects before their collision is equal to the total momentum of the two objects after the collision. To try and prove this law, Rebecca calculated the final velocities of the two balls. Firstly, she had to define a few things. Right is the positive x direction. Up is the positive y direction. Measurements were also taken on the table, so the angle of the picture on the slide may be misleading in terms of what direction each component faces. The balls were also assumed to be the same mass of 0.165 kilograms.
Velocity is defined as the change in displacement over a time period. The yellow ball was initially at rest, so its initial velocity was 0. Using the momentum equation, P equals mv, Rebecca found the initial momentum for the yellow ball to be 0.
Next, the initial velocity of the red ball needed to be found. She found this by taking the change in displacement over change in time again, finding that the initial velocity was 1.76 meters per second. The change in time was estimated by looking at the recording of the video and estimating the time it took for the red ball to hit the yellow.
Since both balls traveled with a horizontal and vertical displacement, she had to calculate the angles at which they went. Rebecca used the horizontal and vertical components of the yellow ball to calculate this angle, since tan x equals y over x. She then used the x and y displacements to determine the final velocity of the yellow ball in both the x and y direction.
She then did the same thing for the red ball, obtaining a horizontal velocity of 0.366 meters per second and a vertical velocity of 0.360 meters per second.
Since momentum is a vector, Rebecca had to find the momentum of both the horizontal and vertical components. Since all the masses cancel out, Rebecca was dealing with the conservation of the velocities before and after the collision. In the horizontal direction, she found that the initial and final velocities were almost but not quite equivalent.
She did the same in the vertical component, finding a similar result. This error was likely due to the friction on the pool table as well as inaccuracies in measurements. Some other sources of error include the inaccurate time measurement, as this was generally an estimation. An inaccurate time could have led to inaccurate velocities. More precise measuring tools would also have led to a more accurate measurement of the displacements.
Overall, Rebecca found that momentum is mostly conserved while playing pool. She now understands that since this is not an isolated system, some momentum would be lost due to friction. She can now apply this knowledge to both her professional pool playing and her knowledge of physics. Thanks for watching!